This video is sponsored by Raycon. Alakazamers! They sent me a pair of their everyday earbuds, and trust me when I say that they are fantastic. Where am I? Wait, is this my first Raycon sponsorship? Who are you? I'm you from the future. How do I know you're telling the truth? Well, go on with the ad. They're super tiny and comfortable to wear, and they even come with an assortment of silicone tips to fit whatever kind of ear you may have. Yes, even a monster ear. They're easy to sync up to Bluetooth, and the sound quality is great. These little things are way bassier than I expected. Okay, how are you doing that? I'm you. I know about how you've been using your Raycons constantly in your everyday life, and how you listen to way more music now because of them. Whoa, then surely you know about how they can last up to 6 hours on a charge and up to 24 hours with this little case. Actually, new models last up to 32 hours. What a wondrous future world you live in. I also know that Raycon everyday earbuds are about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds, and that anyone can get 15% off at buyraycon.com/Arlo. You know my vanity URL. You really are me from the future. Yes, and I'm here to tell you not to do this sponsorship. If you do, it will start a chain of events leading to the eventual collapse of all possible universes. You must stop! But you already did it. What? You just did the sponsorship. You read all the talking points. Oh. Oh, monkey. Hello, my friends. I've done a number of videos on my hopes for various video games. Plenty of those games have released, and my luck has not always been the best in every case. Oh. Some of those games are still in development, and might be for a whole lot longer. And one of those games hasn't been announced, but most likely will exist eventually. Maybe? Oh. But today I'm pushing things even further. I'm going to be talking about my hopes for a game that at the time of this recording may not ever exist. The idea of doing a sequel to Super Mario Odyssey seems like an obvious one. The game is the best-selling 3D Mario by a wide margin, and its core mechanics combined with its creative and even random theming make for a tremendous amount of potential. I'm convinced Nintendo could make a bunch of sequels and not run out of ideas. Plus, they've already burned through most of their first-party IPs on Switch, so turning out some sequels to keep filling out the library would make all the sense in the world. I mean, I've talked about this endlessly. Sequels are quicker and cheaper to develop. They're an opportunity to further develop and refine the ideas presented by their predecessors. We get to play more fun stuff, they get the money. Everybody wins! Unfortunately, Nintendo is very unpredictable. Sometimes it even seems like the more obvious an idea is, the less likely they are to do it. That's the left field principle for you. They like to go their own way, and sometimes that works out for us, and sometimes it doesn't. And while I hate the idea of Odyssey's massive potential remaining partially untapped for all eternity, if Nintendo ends up announcing a totally different Mario at any point, we'll know that they've most likely moved on. However, right now, I'm holding on to hope. Today, I'm assuming that Super Mario Odyssey 2 is inevitable. And under that assumption, I can't help but imagine how I'd like the game to turn out. And I also can't help but, make a video about it. Just how I am, I guess. First things first, I absolutely adore Super Mario Odyssey. It's undoubtedly my favorite 3D Mario game. But when I compare it closely to some of its predecessors, I don't think its platforming sequences represent Nintendo at their absolute best. 3D World and the Galaxy games are so tightly and expertly designed, whereas Odyssey is a little more loose, more likely to play around with an idea without as strong of a structure. It's a little more experimental, and I can certainly appreciate that in its own way. You really never know what kind of challenge you're gonna find, and I love it for that. But I do miss those tighter platforming sequences. And a lot of people dislike Odyssey's design, so I think if there's one main thing for Nintendo to focus on in a sequel, it's tightening everything up and better merging their sandbox and linear Mario styles. More little bonus stages, or whatever they're called, the ones through the doors. Make the player spend more time doing that genuine platforming so that it feels like a more major part of the experience rather than a side activity you do sometimes. And definitely do more weird and random levels, but include a higher percentage of those traditional linear challenges we saw so much of pre-Odyssey. The goal is to make a Mario game that's truly perfect, that any Mario fan can enjoy, whether they're more into linear titles or sandbox ones. And on the topic of pleasing everyone, I'd really like it if they did something about the moon issue. Odyssey has a lot of moons to collect, and a fairly high number of them don't take too much effort, leading many people to feel that moons are of little worth. I do not feel this way. I feel that even when moons are easy to get, they reward exploration. Getting something important instead of just coins or one-ups or whatever actually incentivizes me to explore. And beating a main story sequence or a boss or something still feels impactful because of the progression I earn for myself. It's not about the actual collectible itself, but I could talk your ear off about this subject. Point is, even if it's not a problem for me, I don't want it to be a problem for other people. I think it's sad how many people dislike Odyssey when I think it's just so good. So as with the platforming thing, let's find a way to make everyone happy. Maybe have a more common collectible that you can find everywhere, but then have a big special collectible at the end of all the important story challenges. Maybe the big ones are for progressing, but the small ones unlock other stuff, kind of like the purple coins do. Not sure, but figure something out. Let's all be one big happy family who loves Super Mario Odyssey 2 together. Now, Odyssey isn't too bad in the difficulty department. The main game is pretty darn easy, so most people can beat it. Then it's got an extremely meaty post-game for anyone looking for more content and indeed more challenge. It's a great system that makes the game appropriate for all ages, and while the whole thing might lean a little further into the easy side of the scale than I'd prefer, there are enough tricky challenges there that I always come away from the game feeling satisfied. If 3D World was way too easy for me, Odyssey at least pulls the series back in the right direction. But as long as I'm wishing, you know what I'd like? A harder sequel. Maybe don't pull a Mario 2 Lost Levels on us or anything, but crank up that dial a good amount. Tweak that easy to hard ratio. Make something a little better suited for quote-unquote core players. This would narrow the game's audience a little, and I know Nintendo is all about their wide audiences, but I think that's fine for a sequel. Most of the casual crowd already got their Mario. They might not even be looking out for a sequel, and direct sequels almost always sell less. I say lean into it and make a Mario with an edge to it. Heck, that's not even a bad marketing angle. Cater to all the hardcore gamer grown-ups like me. Here's something I want, but I will admit I don't know if it's possible or even a good idea. Might as well mention it though. Odyssey is a return to the sandbox style, but unlike the other sandbox Marios, it does not have a hub world. This is understandable, as the whole point is that you're flying around in an airship. It doesn't really need a hub world. It's not a big deal, but darn it, I do miss having that hub. Peach's Castle and Delfino Plaza are some of my favorite parts of their respective games. They're the framework. They give you something to do between regular worlds, and especially in 64, it's immensely fun to explore and find worlds and bonus levels in places you didn't expect. Yes, Odyssey 2 should probably just use the airship again. I can't think of a good way to introduce a hub world. But if they can think of something, then that's great. Barring an actual hub though, a happy medium could be a more interesting map screen. Galaxy 2 comes to mind, though something where you move freely like in Kirby Star Allies would be cool. Or even Mass Effect 2 and 3, where you're actually exploring instead of just picking which level to enter. I could easily see them bringing at least some mystery and sense of exploration to the map screen, so it feels at least a little like a hub world. Letting us actually discover some kingdoms through this exploration and letting us visit kingdoms in different orders would also help a lot. That'd be really cool. And speaking of kingdoms, I'm probably just being greedy here, but I want to see more big ones. The sand, wooded, and metro kingdoms were highlights for me. They're absolutely sprawling, and at first it felt like I would never find all there was to find. Some of the other kingdoms in Odyssey are big, but they're a lot more segmented, so I think what I'm looking for is more freedom of traversal. Barreling around on Jaxi or on a scooter is a blast. And the Wooded Kingdom doesn't have an open area like those other two, but there are still a lot of different paths to take and secrets to find. And even if we still don't have a lot of super duper massive kingdoms, I don't want to feel like any of them got the short end of the stick. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that the Cascade Kingdom was one of the most exciting ones from the trailers, and it was extremely disappointing to discover how small it is. The Hat Kingdom too, it's got such a cool design, and it's a shame that there isn't more to do there. I want the most interesting locales to have a lot of meat to them. I want to walk away feeling satisfied with my meal. And while I'm being greedy, I want to see as much new stuff as possible. Odyssey offers such an incredible mix of unique new races and locales, and I want to see even more. A couple callbacks here and there wouldn't hurt. The theme of Odyssey is travel, after all. But for the most part, I want a whole new slew of people and places and ideas. Similarly, I do want the Brutals to at least be in the game somewhere. Maybe you fight them, maybe they're just background characters, maybe they just pop up for a silly gag. But I'd prefer if we get another new secondary baddie or set of baddies. I just love getting new characters, and the Brutals are fun enough that I'd love to see Bowser hire yet another new batch of helpers. Maybe they could even be rivals and compete to take Mario down. That's a fun idea. And I think it goes without saying, I want the game to have another fun story. Odyssey puts a whole new spin on the standard Bowser kidnaps Peach thing, and has lots of fun cutscenes and surprises and all that. I want that again. It's a mainline Mario game. I know there's no way we're gonna get a different villain or anything, even though I would love that very much, but all it takes is a little something extra to engage and motivate me. What I certainly do not want them to do is pull a Galaxy 2, where it's billed as a sequel, but suddenly all the characters have amnesia, and it's kinda just the same story again, except with even less story. That was massively disappointing, and for me, that's the kind of thing that can pull me out of a game, even if the gameplay is otherwise great. Whatever Odyssey 2 ends up being, if it ends up being, I want it to feel like a true follow-up. Mario has no consistent canon and absolutely never will, but I'd like them to do it the way they did back in the GameCube days, when it felt like at least a handful of games were kinda connected just for a while before the series moved on to something else. Even if it's just 2 Odyssey games, then everything resets with the next brand new Mario. I'll take it. Seeing as this is Odyssey 2, it most certainly goes without saying that Cappy is present along with the whole capture mechanic. The game already looked like a dream come true after the first trailer, but the capture thing was the icing on the cake. It's the mechanic that gives Odyssey such a strong, unique identity. It's what separates Odyssey from the regular power-up concept seen in previous games, while also expanding on that concept in its own way. Capture's good, is what I'm trying to say. So just like everything else, a few returning ideas can be good, but let's see a ton of new ones. Odyssey has a terrific mix of traditional Mario baddies and weird new ones, but it's missing so many traditional baddies that I have no doubt they could give us a brand new set of everything. Koopas, Monimoles, Pokies, Bob-ombs, all the stuff that didn't make it to the first game, with even more fresh ones. I mean, gosh, the possibilities are just endless. If anything, this is the main reason why Odyssey needs a sequel. There's no end to what you can do with the idea, no limit to the amount of gameplay variety it can introduce. That variety is one thing I love so much about captures, so I'd love to see more long sequences and boss battles and such that you've got to do entirely with captures. Maybe even some fights where you get to pick which capture you want to use. Each of the sequences in Odyssey only have one capture in mind, so giving players a chance to go with different strategies could be a really fun twist on the concept. Perfect for a sequel. And while we're talking about captures, please make sure they're all equally fun to use. The cannon guys in Odyssey are really cool, and they're used a lot, but man, those controls are not good. Motion doesn't feel right, stick doesn't feel right, I'm really not sure what happened there. I humbly request that the controls are tight and fun in every case. And on the topic of variety, man, this is like segue the video. Here's another one that I'm not sure is possible or a good idea, but I'd like to present it anyway. Costumes in Odyssey are fun. A heck of a lot of fun, in fact. I mean, some of these things are downright silly. And it's great to finally break away from the same overalls and cap we've been stuck with for decades. So for a sequel, new costumes, that's obvious. But even more than that, I can't help but imagine a game where the costumes actually do something for you. Now, this is not as easy as it sounds, because a Mario game is built entirely around the abilities Mario has available to him. If you make him jump a little higher, or last a little longer underwater, or something like that, you run the risk of breaking the design that's in place and rendering some sequences pointless. So costumes that actually change Mario's stats or just give him little bonuses or whatever, they would have to be very carefully done. They wouldn't be able to change the core gameplay too much, but I would love to see the designers try it. Costumes are already fun, but this would add an extra little element to them. More on costumes, one thing I love about them in Odyssey is that they give me something to do with my coins. I mean, a Mario game with an actual coin economy, fun stuff to buy instead of just like earning extra lives. Awesome. But for Odyssey 2, don't give us something like Luigi's Balloon World, which completely destroys that economy. That one little update kinda ruined the whole concept. Now you can max out your coins in like 10 minutes. Also, while we're talking about coins, don't let us buy unlimited moons anymore. I like that the first game has so many moons, but it's really weird how you can just buy your way to the last few areas. And you can max out on moons before you've even earned all the moons. It makes no sense, so just get rid of the whole idea. Let there be a finite number of moons you can buy in each area and leave it at that. As with many, if not all of these videos, I've saved some of the most important wishes for last. This first one will sound familiar to anyone who watched my Hopes for Breath of the Wild 2 video. Mario and Cappy, Peach and Tiara. You don't need me to continue. You know exactly what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I want to play as Peach and Tiara. It's just too perfect. They could control basically just like Mario and Cappy, or maybe they could have some small differences. Peach has got her whole floaty thing, obviously. Mario and Cappy are good at teaming up to jump long distances, so maybe Tiara can help Peach float higher up in the air? Who knows? There are a few different ways you can incorporate the pair into the game. They could be selectable in any given level at any time, though somehow I don't see Nintendo doing that for your first playthrough. They could have their own little set of levels with some complementary story beats you hit throughout the game. You could unlock them after beating the game. You could use them in a sort of New Game Plus, like Luigi in Galaxy. You could use them to go back to levels and reach new areas. If playing as Bowser was a great way to end the first game, I think Peach and Tiara could make for a really fun final sequence. Or their own DLC pack that releases later. You got plenty of options, Nintendo, so make it happen! It would be so much fun to explore these characters and actually see them through their adventures. Peach needs more time in the spotlight in general, especially in a game with a real story. If they don't want to give us another full Peach game, at least give her a couple levels here. And this final hope will be familiar to anyone who watched my Hopes for Pikmin 4 video. I'm looking up to the stars, I'm finding the brightest one, I'm clasping my hands together and making my eyes do that shaky anime thing, and I'm wishing this. Please let Super Mario Odyssey 2 exist. Please let it be a thing that Nintendo is working on and that will release on the Switch in the next year or two. The design potential is there. The demand is there. It would take substantially less time and money to make, and even if it sold half as many copies as its predecessor, it would still be a massive, massive success. Please, Nintendo, or Brightest Star in the Sky, or the spirit of Koizumi, or whoever's listening, Super Mario Odyssey 2! Super Mario Odyssey 2! Super Mario Odyssey 2! Super Mario Odyssey 2! Come on, say it with me! Super Mario Odyssey 2! Super Mario Odyssey 2! Let's get the hashtag trending! Let's go start a petition! Let's make it a whole movement! Let's let Nintendo really know that we... Never mind. Too tired. I'll just go complain on Twitter instead. If Nintendo doesn't give me Super Mario Odyssey 2, I'm gonna smash my Switch with a hammer. Dead company. Will block and report anyone who disagrees. Plus ratio.